Hi guys, today we are going to finish our notes. So we've talked about inner planets, we've talked about outer planets, and we've talked about dwarf planets. So today we're going to talk about other objects in the solar system. Okay, so let's title that Other Objects in the Solar System. Okay, so we have, besides planets and moons, there are other things in our solar system, right? So let's talk about what all those things are. So for starters, we have asteroids. And asteroids are huge chunks of irregular shaped rocks. Okay, so we're going to have all kinds of funny shaped rocks, and those are going to be called asteroids. Now, these are located in, well, not all, but most are located in an area called the asteroid belt. And the asteroid belt is an area between Mars and Jupiter, or they can be scattered around the solar system as well. Okay, so they're the largest objects in the solar system besides planets and moons. Okay, so then not only do we have asteroids, we have comets. Okay, now comets are, let's call them dirty snowballs, because that's what they look like. Okay, they're made of dust and rock particles and frozen gases and ice. Okay, and they are orbiting the sun, and they usually have enormous orbits, meaning they orbit really wide, right? And they're sometimes visible to the naked eye, meaning that we can see it without a telescope. And when they pass through our inner solar system, we can see that they have really long tails. And these are caused because they're partly vaporized by the sun. So this means that the sun is going to turn these comets into dust. Okay, so not only do we have asteroids and comets, we also have meteoroids, meteors, and meteorites. So let's learn the difference. So a meteor, well, let's start with meteoroids. Oh, goodness, it's going to be a long day, guys. All right, so and it would help if I could spell, right? I still can't spell. It's fine, guys. Don't mind me. I'm over here having a day. There we go. Meteoroids. Okay, let's start with those. These are small pieces of rock and dust, and like the comet that we talked about earlier, when it gets vaporized and it gets disintegrated, that becomes like a meteoroid. Okay, so a meteoroid becomes a meteor when it enters the Earth's atmosphere. So a meteor is a meteoroid that enters Earth's atmosphere and they burn. They burn up. Okay, and this is caused by the friction in the atmosphere, right? And this friction or resistance with this meteor that is coming into the atmosphere causes a bright streak. So that's that shooting star that we see, right? And then a meteorite, still can't spell, y'all. Meteorite is a meteor that makes it to Earth without burning up, right? So this is going to be, if a meteorite is a meteor, right? So it's this small piece of rock. It's going to come into the Earth's atmosphere. It's not going to burn up, and it's going to strike the Earth, and then we have a piece of rock from outer space. So only a small percentage of meteors become a meteorite because most of them burn up in the atmosphere. So how do we know all these things? Well, we have scientists and astronauts and all kinds of people who do space exploration and study, right? So they're going to study outer space, they're going to study space exploration, okay? And we're going to learn all kinds of different things that they have learned. So first we're going to talk about some tools, okay? Some different tools that we can use. So let's talk about telescopes. Still can't spell. It's fine. Telescopes. What are telescopes? Well, they are tools that we use to study stars and other objects in space, right? And stars and other objects, of course, in space, they emit electromagnetic radiation, like radio waves and visible light. So on Earth, we study radiation with telescopes. So telescopes are used to study electromagnetic radiation given off by stars and other objects in space. Okay. So we're going to study all this stuff, and that's how we learn what things are, right? That's how we're going to learn the difference between comets and meteors and asteroids, right? That's all by studying everything. So we have a couple other really cool things that we have developed over the years to study, and one is an observatory. So an observatory, these are buildings that have telescopes. Okay, and you can use these telescopes at these observatories to look up into the sky and learn about things that are in outer space. So we also have optical telescopes, and these collect radio waves instead of light waves. So unlike regular telescopes, these don't collect light. We collect radio waves, so it's going to be sounds. So that we can hear what it's like in space. So light rays take a lot longer to reach Earth's surface. So radio waves, they come to Earth's surface 24 hours a day. Doesn't matter what the weather is. It could be raining, snowing, hailing. We'll still get those radio waves. And some radio telescopes are composed of many large dishes that are spread over a large area. So those big, gigantic dishes that we see, those are radio telescopes. And then there's other types of telescopes too. And these, they can collect different wavelengths. So we'll say can collect different wavelengths. And then let's give some examples. So we'll say like X-rays or gamma rays. Okay, these telescopes can collect these, and it tells us more about our solar system, right? This is how we're going to learn about everything that's out there, because we can't just walk up into space and figure it out, right? It's not like Earth. We can't just go explore outer space. So if we do want to explore outer space, how do we do that? Well, we can use rockets, right? These are powerful engines that are used to send objects like satellites and space probes into space, right? So what is a satellite? Well, a satellite is anything that revolves around a planet or another object. Anything? That is all, guys. I'm sorry. Anything that revolves around a planet or other object. Okay, so artificial satellites, they collect data, right? So we have like weather satellites, and then we also use satellite to collect images, right? So we can look at the Earth and the Moon from the International Space Station, right? We see pictures of the sun and other planets. All of those things are collected with satellites and other objects like that. So earlier I mentioned space probes. What are those? Well, a space probe is a craft, we'll call it, like a vehicle, a craft that travels through space and it collects and transmits data. Collecting and transmitting data that it sends to Earth with radio waves. Okay, so these space probes are going to send this data that it collects and it's going to send it back to Earth with radio waves. So much we know about the planets and objects in the solar system. Most of this information has actually been collected by space probes because we can't travel that far, at least not yet. So we also have a way for humans to get to space, right? And that's by using a space shuttle. And a space shuttle can transport satellites and astronauts to space. So it's like an airplane kind of to space, right? And then where do they go? Well, they go to a space station. So a space station is like a combination of a lab and an apartment, which is like a small area to live, right? So in the space station, they're going to live there, and they're going to explore, or not explore, they're going to test samples, and they're going to measure things, and they're going to really figure out what's going on in space, right? So because objects in space are so far apart, we have to use huge units of measuring for distance, right? So scientists use light years to measure distances in space. So I want you to remember that 1 light year is the distance light travels in 1 year, which is about 9.5 trillion kilometers. So that is so much distance, right? 9.5 trillion kilometers. The closest star to Earth is about 4.3 light years away, so it's really far away, right, guys? All right, so that is our lesson. We are all done with our planets and our space exploration. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Make sure you're writing down your notes. These can be used on your quiz, and I will see you in the meeting.